Welcome back, true believers and spectacular Spidey fans, to another really awesome Spider-Man PS4 related video, specifically episode 2 of Spider-Man PS4 101, the series where I am going to break down certain really interesting characters that we did see during Spider-Man PS4's E3 2017 gameplay demo. The first episode was about Mr. Negative, and now the second episode, right now, is about the Inner Demons. Now, why are the Inner Demons getting their own Spider-Man PS4 101 episode? I mean, they don't really seem that important, they just seem like henchmen, right? They just seem like local thugs that Mr. Negative is going to use to take out Spider-Man in the game, but really, these aren't just any regular criminals. These aren't any regular thugs that we have fought in previous Spider-Man games. These guys actually seem like a real threat to Spider-Man in the game, and I will tell you why. So first, we're going to break down their role in the comics, what they have done in the comics that differentiates them from what we saw in the game, and how I think Insomniac is taking these characters within the game, because once again, if you saw the interviews that Insomniac gave at E3, or if you have just been on their Twitter page, Insomniac have said that these characters in Spider-Man PS4, so Peter Parker, Mr. Negative, Aunt May, Kingpin, the Inner Demons, all these characters that we saw in Spider-Man PS4 and that will be in Spider-Man PS4, they're going to be used in different ways from what we have seen from the movies, the comics, the TV shows, etc. So they're going to be different from what we usually know about them, and this is how the Inner Demons are in the comics. So once again, the Inner Demons are basically Mr. Negative's henchmen. They were once again created by Dan Slott, who is the creator of Mr. Negative, and basically, these guys are really interesting. So, a brief history about the Inner Demons. The Inner Demons first confronted Spider-Man while Mr. Negative was extracting a local Magia crime family member's blood. They were later defeated by Spidey in Battery Park. A while later, the Inner Demons were attacked by Anti-Venom, which we talked about in the other Spider-Man PS4 101 video, and also the comics that you should read for Spider-Man PS4, which Insomniac and Bill Roseman both recommended to us Spider-Man PS4 fans to actually go and read. I'll put those in the description as well so you can watch those videos, but basically, they're just Mr. Negative's henchmen that we know from the comics, and basically these are his lackeys that he does use in the comics to take out Spider-Man, to provide as a distraction, to be his backup, his goons, basically his muscle. But really, it's really interesting to see what they're doing in regards to the game. So to continue, their powers. You think, what we saw in the demo, they just use guns, and that they're just going to use, most likely, other types of weapons, because in the comics they also use like nunchucks, they use swords sometimes, they use electrified gauntlets and different types of weaponry that they use to take out Spider-Man. So they're kind of a little bit like ninjas, depending on who is actually in the Inner Demons, which type of member from a gang or what type of criminal person is actually an Inner Demon for Mr. Negative, because of how they can range from normal thugs to normal Yakuza members, like actual, higher class goons, or actually trained martial artist ninjas, because in the comics they do use, like I said, they use gauntlets and different types of weaponry to take out Spider-Man in a very, very, very professional way, in a very martial arts-esque way. To continue with how the Inner Demons are basically implemented within the comics, is because the Inner Demons cannot die in the comics. That's a big, big point, everybody, that you must know. In the comics, the Inner Demons, at least a main iteration of the Inner Demons, is that they don't die. They can't die because of how they are embodied with Mr. Negative's powers, the negative energy. And thus, with that energy, it allows the Inner Demons to continue living. And also, sometimes, the Inner Demons are brainwashed to fully worship and follow Mr. Negative. That's how they are in the comics. In certain iterations, Mr. Negative has these proverbs, like, Mr. Negative is never born, so he is ever living. Or, Mr. Negative is nothing, thus he is one with us all. So they say these chants and these kind of weird proclamations towards Mr. Negative like he's some kind of god, because of how they're brainwashed by Mr. Negative's powers. They're under Mr. Negative's mind control power, like in the comics, Spider-Man is actually turned evil from Mr. Negative's touch, so it's the same thing with these Inner Demons. Sometimes in the comics, they are actually touched by Mr. Negative, and then they're controlled by Mr. Negative to do whatever the heck he wants, which is really cool. But in the game, we see that they're just using guns, they're not using any weapons so far, we just see them as these gang members, because in the interviews, Insomniac have said that the Inner Demons and Mr. Negative are like the new guys in town, because in the beginning of the game, the first villain you go after is Kingpin. That's why he's already in jail in the demo, and then in the continuation of the demo, we see Spider-Man go after the Inner Demons and Mr. Negative, because they're the new guys in town. They're this new gang that just arrived. They're trying to take over Kingpin's territory, and they're trying to control the majority of New York because of how they were already in China, and not Chinatown, but actually in China before, where Mr. Negative, Martin Lee, was actually holed up in China. So that's where the Inner Demons first started, in China. But now they're in New York. They're in New York City, and they're trying to make their own living in New York by controlling Chinatown and being the kingpin of Chinatown. That's what Mr. Negative's trying to be. He's trying to be the kingpin of Chinatown. He's trying to control New York's districts. He's trying to, you know, rule New York pretty much. And the Inner Demons are helping Mr. Negative as their muscle, as his henchmen. Also, really interestingly, even though in the comics they say they can't die, they do not have the ability to die since they're having backup from Mr. Negative's powers. In the game, they just seem like normal criminals at first. They seem like normal thugs who are just hired by Mr. Negative as like hired help, and they wear those suits and those masks as the Inner Demons, because that way they can have backup for Mr. Negative whenever he needs it to take out Spider-Man and just do his dirty work for him, pretty much. They're just normal henchmen. What we see so far in the first two combat sequences and in the E3 2016 trailer and the PlayStation King ad, they just seem like a normal type of thug. Well, really, if you see when the Inner Demon Bruiser shows up, the heavy Inner Demon, he has this negative energy, and you see he's not wearing any gauntlets. He doesn't have any like shocker gauntlets, for example. That's him. That's his power. Because Mr. Negative, what he most likely did in the game, he touched that Inner Demon heavy, and then he embodied that heavy with some of Mr. Negative's negative powers. That's why when you see him fighting and punching, the negative energy goes away on this guy's body, on his hands. It dissipates because of how he's not wearing any technology or any hand gauntlets. That's the power of Mr. Negative's energy embodied into that heavy Inner Demon. So really, he can do most likely the same thing to the lower Inner Demons, the standard Inner Demons that just have those guns and are just fighting Spider-Man normally on the top of the Fist Tower and on the first combat sequence. They can most likely be embodied by Mr. Negative's energy as well, and then they can try and figure out how to actually take down Spider-Man in a much more efficient way with Mr. Negative's powers. And again, Mr. Negative isn't the main villain, and neither are the Inner Demons. They're just really interesting characters within Spider-Man PS4 that we will most likely be able to see more of down the line. And really, they're just really cool villains that we can fight overall. I mean, in past Spider-Man games, we have had normal thugs, we've had gang members, we have symbiotes, we've had creatures to fight. Now we have the Inner Demons, which is really cool to see how they're implementing that in the game, and with this realistic take on Spider-Man, and seeing how not only is this going to be a realistic take on these characters that we see with them using guns, most likely we will get like the ninja Inner Demons, like different types of Inner Demons, like in Batman Arkham and all the Arkham games. There's different types of enemies you can fight. There was the standard thug, there was the thug with weapons, there was the thug who was bigger, there were thugs with guns. So it's the same thing here. There'll most likely be different enemy variations of the Inner Demons, like maybe like a fast Inner Demon, like Inner Demon Ninja, and then we have the heavy Inner Demon, the standard Inner Demons, we have the Inner Demons with guns. So there's going to be different types of Inner Demons in the game that we can fight for sure, and it's going to be really cool to see how they implement that within the game. So I know this was a short video, and I know that this is another video of Spider-Man PS4 101, but don't worry, the final episode, because this is a mini-series of Spider-Man PS4 videos I'm doing called Spider-Man PS4 101. If there's another character you want me to go over in the demo, let me know, but I did Mr. Negative, I just did the Inner Demons, and next up is going to be Yuri Watanabe, also known as The Wraith. So stay tuned for that one. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I know this was a short video, but really, they're just kind of thugs with a really cool twist of being thugs with the Inner Demons. So stay spectacular, Spidey fans. Thank you so much for watching. Peace out.